Not sure if the screen is popping up. Slovakia. Let me know if the screen popped up, okay, Rock? Okay. I think I'm Rock. I think I'm. All right, just put the thing, the sign in on the class. I think I'm up and running. Slovakia. Let me just. I might be up and running. I'm not sure. Slovakia. Technical difficulties. All right, I think I'm up in here. What's going on, Israel? Today we're going to talk about something interesting. We're going to talk about, the wickedness of queens. As you know, many kingdoms have had queens, and it's something that it is not an Israelite custom to have queens in power. And as you go through a timeline in history, you will see the impact that queens have had that queens have had throughout the different kingdoms in the world. So more specifically, we'll focus on King Ahab and Jezebel and the effect that she had in the kingdom and the impact that she had in the kingdom. Now, keep in mind, Jezebel was a heathen. She was not an Israelite. And as you know, President-elect Joe Biden has put a heathen in the vice presidential office, right? So now, God forbid, this woman becomes president. Joe Biden is probably the oldest president to be in office, right? He's pushing at about 77, about 3 years from being 80 years old. I mean, this devil gonna be walking around with an oxygen tank in a couple of years, and so there could be a possibility that Kamala Harris could be the president of the United States, right? So it's interesting as we go back into our history. We know that the Lord forbade us to put a queen over us, and King Ahab and many of his family members before him have committed wickedness in the sight of the Lord. So we're going to go to 1 Kings chapter 16. All right, follow along if you can. But this is very interesting, man. And there's a reason why we don't allow a woman to be the head over the man. Does anyone know the precept of the hierarchy when it comes to the family, when it comes to the church? Can anyone pull the precept on that online? Right? The Bible says that, and Paul reiterated that, that he said, I suffer not a woman to teach or usurp authority over the man. Right? Another precept would be women rule over our people, right? And so we gotta be real careful, because this particular part of the Bible is something that we should all, as men, consider in being the head of the being the head of the relationship and taking that serious. You know what I mean? A woman, the thing about a woman is she could smell weakness. I mean, black women and Hispanic women, they're like lionesses. They can smell weakness. You know what I mean? And so when you're dealing with a lioness, you can't be a sheep. You can't be a dog with, you know, with your tails between your legs. You know what I mean? You can't be effeminate. You can't be. You always gotta show your masculinity, no matter what. You know what I mean? And if the woman don't like it, and more specifically, she ain't gonna like it, you being in the UPK anyways, because you come to the UPK, now you're gonna be taught how to be a lion. Outside of the UPK, you're dealing with a bunch of sheeps. You know what I mean? But yeah, let's go to 1 Kings chapter 16. First and foremost, before we get started, are there any questions online? If there's any questions, let's get those questions out the way before we get started. All right. I'll give it about a minute for any questions. I don't have too much time today because of technical difficulty. As usual, Satan has been going hard. Finally getting my internet in order. I think another week I should be up and running. But if you have any questions, ask your questions. Don't be shook. You know what I mean? It's the Bible now. Just don't be shook, all right? Ask your questions if you have any. If not, I'm going to move on. I'm going to give it about a sec. No questions. I'm going to move on. All right, now. Let's get it. All right. First place we want to go is 1 Corinthians 11:3. And I know for this, I'm reading. I got to go to the New Testament for any Christians that are online, or for any ounce of Christianity in your thoughts or in your mind. This is what the Bible says. 1 Corinthians 11, starting at verse 1, it says, "Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ." You hear a lot of Christians say that, or a lot of people in general say you shouldn't follow a man, right? And they always reiterate that you shouldn't follow a man. You should never follow a man. And a lot of times what you got to ask Christians is, well, okay, if I shouldn't follow a man, or if I shouldn't listen to another man, then why should I listen to you? Right? That's one thing you would ask them. You need someone to teach you. Since you was a child, you think your parents just kind of was just like popped you out and just said, "All right, man, handle your business." Nah, they had to teach you. They had to train you. The Bible says, "Train a child the way he shall go, and he shall not depart from it." You got to be taught, man. And all throughout your life, you're going to be taught. But more specifically, you got to be taught again when it comes to this truth before you can go out and teach, right? That's why Paul said, "Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ." Because Paul followed Christ, you should follow Paul. You don't skip Paul to follow Christ. No, you follow Paul because Paul follows Christ. There's an order of operation, right? You don't, the CEO of the company does not want to deal with you directly. He has managers in place. He has a hierarchy in place, and you go up the ladder, right? For you black women out there, with all this black girl magic that you've been pouring out, destroying all kinds of, destroying these new generation of babies, with all that black girl magic you got going on, that hot girl summer, right? embarrassing the child because you don't want to put no goddamn clothes on. You want to run around here naked, acting a fool, acting silly without a man, out of order. Now, what you got to understand is that you can't skip your husband. You can't skip the man that's piping you down every night. You can't skip him and think you can go straight to Christ. No, that's not what Paul said. Paul said this. I'm going to read one more time. It says, be ye followers of me, even as also I am of Christ. Right? Now he says this, verse 2. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I deliver them to you. Right? So Paul was trying to say, well, listen, all the things that I've been telling you, just make sure you keep me in your thoughts, right? And in the ordinances that I've given you, make sure you keep that as well, right? Whatever I delivered onto you, you keep. This is why we follow Commander General Yohana, right? Because we know he follows Christ. How do we know that, right? Here's how we know that Commander General Yohana follows Christ. Christ said this. He said, every good tree groweth good fruit, right? And every evil tree grows evil fruit, right? How do we know that Commander General Yohana follows Christ? Well, look at the branches. Look at the fruits that are being produced, right? Look at the fruits that are being produced. We don't have homosexuals in here. We don't have drug dealers in this house that I love so much. We don't have whores in this house. We don't have adulterers in this house. We will seek them. We won't condone adultery in this house. You know what I mean? The Christian church has always been about come as you are and stay as you are, right? You could pay a fine for everything that you do. And that fine that you pay in the Christian church is your tithes. You pay your tithes, you can be every filthy thing that man is known to do. You could be anything. You could be a transgender, full-blown transgender sitting in that church. Breast implants, the whole nine. It's not an issue, right? So now, we know that when you look at the UPK, all you see is good fruit, right? When you look at the Christian church, all you see is evil fruit, right? When you see women ruling over men, women, what do they call them? Women that consider themselves to be prophetess. Let me go old school, like your Juanita Bynums. Who are some of these? Who are some of these women in the church right now? Let me pull up some names. Let me be more specific. Right? Let me be more specific. Let me get a list of them. All right. Let me see the 9 greatest black women preachers. I want to pull this up real quick. See what I can find over here. Let's see who's elected themselves rulers over our people. Oh, they got a bunch of heathens on here. All right. Let me see if I can find any names. Black women preachers. Let me see. Show you the kind of black girl magic that they're putting on you in these churches, man. There's some old school ones up in here too. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Rev Stacy Hamilton. Here's one of them, right? She's a reverend. Here's another black girl magic. Rev Jacqueline Thompson, right? Rev Leslie Copeland. Rev Valerie Bridgman. So these are some of these women that have with that Jezebel spirit that have ruled over our people, right? I believe Juanita Bynum was a drug addict at one point. Can we pull that up too? I believe she was a drug addict. Anyone know? I mean, give me some names, man. I believe she was on. Let me see Juanita Bynum's net worth. Juanita Bynum's net worth is $10 million. Interesting. $10 million, Juanita Bynum. That is her net worth. Who is a famous televangelist, right? Who considers herself to be a prophetess, right? I know there was some drama on there. I know y'all know online some drama on Juanita Bynum. I know she was on something. Yeah, okay, here it is. Pentecostal televangelist. And hold on 1 second. Well, hold on. Okay, let's look up these. Let's look up Juanita Bynum. I'm going old school right here. Here we go. It says, I'm gonna read this right here for y'all. All right, pay attention. They're gonna try to cover it up. I'm gonna get it though. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me pull this up, man. I'm trying to get Juanita Bynum up in here. Okay, here it is. I've been with women. Okay, here's your Bynum, right? It says this. Gospel singer and prophetess Juanita Bynum recently appeared on Atlanta radio station V103 and revealed some of her past struggles in life. She also spoke of her affairs she said she had with women. I've done it all. I did the drugs. I've been with men. I've been with women. It's not a lie. It's my life. Bynum said, I took full responsibility in every area because every day nobody put a gun to my head. Let me tell you something about this woman. That woman is still on drugs. She is still with women. Joyce Meyer, Joyce Meyer. That's that white lady. She is the queen of them all. I think Joyce Meyer got to be the queen of them all, right? The queen of all these prophetess. I believe that's a white woman. You can find any more black women. But I know Juanita Bynum, she had something going on where she was strung out for a little while. But yeah, let's keep moving, man. Now let's get back to 1 Corinthians. 1 second. Let's get back to it. 1 Corinthians 11, start at verse 3. He said, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ. Black women seem to always skip this part. The Bible just said the head of every man is Christ, right? They're giving you a chain of command right now. And the head of the woman is the man. And the head of Christ is Most High. Now, there's two things you need to listen to. It says the head of the woman is the man, meaning the man is in charge of that woman. That woman should not be in a position of power, should not be leading any man. Anytime a woman is in a position of power and leadership over the men of Israel, that is a time where the Lord was not with us. That is a time where our leadership failed, our men are weak. And this is the time right now. Now, thank the Lord for the Israelite School, Universal Practical Knowledge, because there ain't no weak men up in here, right? And we don't allow a woman to teach or to have any chain of command up in here. Not in this house, right? You go down the block with that. Get your raggedy behind down the block, and you go and you fall under the you go and you open up your own congregation, right? And you be that mighty prophetess that you claim to be. But up in here, you're gonna keep your goddamn mouth shut. That I know. That is for sure, right? But it says, and then it says this, and the head of Christ is the Most High. I thought Christ was the Most High. So why would he say, and the head of Christ is the Most High? Right? Now, most Christians try to flip it and say, well, no, he's saying that the head of Christ, meaning Christ is the Most High. So when it says the head of every man is Christ, is your average brother, is he Christ? No, that's not what it's saying. Right? But I wanted to bring that up because, you got to kill the lie of this 50-50 talk that everyone be spitting, talking about, it's, in a relationship, it should be 50-50. But at the end of the day, here's the problem, right? You can't have a two-headed monster in a relationship, right? Someone got to be in charge, man. You can't have two CEOs. You can't. It just doesn't work, right? You're going to butt heads. It just doesn't work. The Bible says the woman is the weaker vessel. The Lord don't think it's 50-50. The Lord put the man in charge. So if anything goes down with that family, the Lord is going to look at the man, just like Adam and Eve. Eve was the one that was deceived and lured Adam into that sin as well and convinced him. And that's the power of a woman. A woman, that magic that woman has on her. Oh boy, let me tell you something. The woman, aside from the Bible, the woman is the most powerful creature on the planet. Aside from the Bible, there's nothing more powerful than a woman on this planet. The influence of a woman and what a woman can get a man to do is unbelievable, right? Let me tell you something. Poppy's in jail because Poppy killed everyone that tried to have sex with Maria. You know what I mean? Listen, most men that are in jail, 90% of the time is because of a woman, right? No word of a lie. 90% of the time, some woman has something to do with that brother being in jail, right? So now we have to understand the power of a woman and the influence of a woman. So now, the reason why I want to start, we're going to start at 8 o'clock. We're going to go at the book of 1 Kings, starting at chapter 16, all right? For those that are not familiar with the story, this is a woman. There's a brother by the name of King Ahab. And this brother right here was wicked in the sight of the Lord. And this brother, used to worship Baalim. So Israel had a wicked king over them, right? And what made matters even worse, he married a heathen and made her queen. And this is something that's forbidden in our culture, right? And so when this woman came into play, this woman knew how to work her black girl magic, man. She knew how to whip Ahab into shape. She knew that Ahab was weak and that she could manipulate him. She could get him, she could twirl him around with her finger, right? She knew how to do that. She knew how to entice him, knew how to run game on Ahab. And so essentially, Ahab was the king, but she was the one making all the power moves. She was the one behind the scenes exacting judgment. And many feared her, including Elijah, including the prophets. They feared Jezebel. Right? Well, let's get it. We're going to start at 1 Kings chapter 16, right? All right, well, let's start at We're going to go to 1 Kings chapter 16. Let's start at verse 30. And Ahab, the son of Omri, did evil in the sight of the Lord above all that were before him. So all the kings that were before Ahab, Ahab did the most evil in the sight of the Lord, right? And it came to pass, as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, that he took to wife Jezebel, the daughter of Baal, king of the Zidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. And this is what Ahab did. Ahab married a heathen, which is forbidden in our law to marry, right? He married a Zidonian, and this woman Jezebel, Lord, this woman raised hell in Israel. She had the prophets scrambling, right? And so now, because she married this woman, she ended up worshiping her god, Baal. What does that remind you of? That reminds you of Solomon. Solomon had many wives. And here's what you're going to understand. I want to be clear about this. I want you to hear this out. You cannot marry a heathen for this reason and this reason alone. Two reasons, actually. First reason is because the Lord told you to not give your daughters unto their sons and your sons unto their daughters. The Lord said that. That's the first reason. Let's get that out the way. The second reason is that when you do marry a heathen and you go and marry a Chinese woman and you go and marry a East Indian woman, you are going to worship their God, right? That's what you're going to do. You are going to worship their God. And in this case, Ahab, who married a heathen woman, ended up worshiping Baal because that's who her people worshipped, right? Let's keep reading. And he reared up an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he had built in Samaria. So now Ahab goes even further in his wickedness and builds a house for Baal, right? And he built it in Samaria, and he raised up an altar for Baal, right? And Ahab made a grove, and Ahab did more to provoke the Lord, God of Israel, to anger. And this is what we do when these holidays come around, especially Christmas. You damn near build up an altar in your house by setting up that Christmas tree in your house, right? Which is cultish behavior, right? And you provoke the Lord to anger when you worship your idols, right? That's what you do. And here's the problem. You're not strong enough to go up against your woman. You think you are. You are not strong enough to go up against your woman, which is why your woman does not want you in the Israelite School Universal Practical Knowledge. Your woman don't want you up in here because she knows you run up in here with these killers, these brothers, they goons, man. They goons for the Lord. You know what I mean? You run up in here, understand one thing, that you are going to come in here and we are going to raise a lion. And when you get back to your woman, you are going to raise hell. You are going to be Incredible Hulk when that Christmas tree comes in your house. You know what I mean? You are going to be a force to be reckoned with. But outside of the Israelite Universal Practical Knowledge, your woman has that Jezebel spirit that you do not know how to combat. And you essentially are going to worship her God. That's what you're going to do. You know what I mean? You're going to worship her God. Let me tell you something. Your relationship with your woman is the only reason it's still intact right now is because she has elected a God for you to serve. Your woman went through the list of gods for you to serve, and she has elected. She said, "Okay, the cats with the purple on, them purple homosexuals, that little nice purple the purple gang. Yeah, that's the God I want you to worship. I want you to worship the God of the Christian church, right? The God of Christianity. I want you to worship Allah. That's who I want you to worship. I want you to worship Buddha. She is electing your God. You don't know how much power your woman has. Your woman has tremendous power. There's a reason why they call it black girl magic. Black women have such an influence on this planet. It is not a joke, right? And guess what? Let me tell you, brother, something. You know, the idea that, you know, that Kamala Harris, supposedly being a black woman, which with a little bit of research, she's I want to say 99% heathen. I believe if you trace her lineage, I'm not, this ain't up for debate, but if you trace her lineage, she more than likely is a heathen. But black people think she's a sister, right? And so let's just use the notion that if she is a sister, this is going to, you know, this is going to be a uphill battle for many of y'all that have a black woman in that household, because now that woman, Lord be with you, she is going to elevate her witchcraft on you like no other, right? She is going to, if you are not up to her standards, I mean, brother, you might as well hang up the towel, because her level of black girl magic is going to be to the roof, right? But I digress. Let's keep reading, all right? So now we're looking at this woman who Ahab, you know, through his weakness has committed himself to worshiping her God, right? Now, let's go to chapter 17, verse 1. Let's get this rocket. And Elisha the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, as the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word. Right? And the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, get hence, and turn thee eastward, and hide thyself by thy brook Cherith, that is before the Jordan. Understand, for all you that have your hopes in America, there's a famine coming in this land, right? I've noticed when I went to the market today, I've noticed that everybody was scrambling. Everybody was scrambling, running to them shelves, right? And funniest thing ever, there was this Edomite woman in there, right? Old Edomite woman. She was complaining to one of these, it might have been an Iskarite brother, complaining like, oh yeah, there's never any, this product hasn't been around all week. It hasn't been around for weeks now, and I'm fed up, and I hate this market, and I don't know what's going on. There's no, you know, the foods that I want have not been coming around. And Poppy's trying to explain to this older woman, like, COVID-19, right? So now this woman looking at him like, and it was just clear. It was like, yeah, you dumb bird. Ain't no want to work in no factory while this COVID is running around. You know what I mean? And so there is going to be a food shortage, and our oppressor is not ready for that, right? Black people were ready for food shortages. You know why? Because we've had food shortages our whole life, right? We've had food shortages our whole life. So it won't be a shocker for us. But for our oppressor, there's going to be a problem. So now the Lord causes a famine in the land for 3 years. And the way, the way the Lord does it is that the Lord could stop it from raining. And if the Lord stops it from raining, there is going to be a famine in the land, right? If there's no dew, right? In its season, there's going to be a famine in the land. So now the Lord allowed these ravens to come and feed Elijah, right? And this is how the Lord is going to position us. You know what I mean? If we serve the Lord, right? If we decide to serve America, well, you are going to be a victim of you are going to be a casualty in this place. You know what I mean? You are going to be a casualty when death and hell comes raining down on this place, right? So now let's fast forward on this one, all right? And so now, as you fast forward, the Lord tells Elijah to bounce out of there from that brook where he was at, where he was being, the water had already dried up, and he said, bounce out of there. And then there's another part that we can go to where it says right here, so like in 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 20. So it says this: so he arose and went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow woman was there gathering of sticks. And he called her and said, fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thy hand. Verse 12, and she said, as the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I'm gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. So this woman was ready to die. All she had was a little cruse of oil and a morsel of bread and a little bit of water. And she said, I'm going to go fetch this for me and my son, and we're going to die. Now, Elijah, being the man of the Lord, what does Elijah say in response to that? And here's what he said: for thus saith the Lord God of Israel. Verse 13, it says, and Elijah said unto her, fear not, go and do as thou said, but make me thereof a little cake first, and bring it unto me, and after make for thee and for thy son. Let me tell you what Elijah is saying here, right? Understand one thing. When you're dealing with a man of the Lord, right, you better feed that man first when he comes to your house. I'm going to tell you that right now. You feed the man of the Lord first before you feed your children, right? Before you feed your family, feed that man of the Lord that has come in your presence. You know, most men in the past never went to the prophets of the Lord without a gift. And so Elijah said, all right, before you go do that to go feed your son and yourself, make sure you give me a morsel of bread first. Make sure you feed me first, right? And so here's what it is, right? And then verse 15, it says, and she went and did according to the saying of Elijah. Salaki. And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah, and she and he and her house did eat many days. So that little bit of food that they had, because this woman listened to what Elijah had, they ate for many days. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like, I remember when we had the New York cookout, right? And hold on. Remember when we had when we went to the New York cookout, Boston had cooked a whole bunch of food. This was probably like 4 years ago. We had cooked a whole bunch of food, shot it over to New York. And it almost seemed like we didn't have enough because there were so many people that were coming off from the streets trying to eat. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, this ain't going to be able to feed everybody. And I kid you not, everyone had seconds and thirds. That's how much that what seemed small fed everyone 2-3 times over. I kid you not. And in this situation with Elijah, he's like, yo, before you go and feed your son, break bread with me first. And because she listened to him, they ate for days when she was only preparing to eat that one last meal and basically die with her son. Right? And she went, now, 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 16. And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Elijah. And it came to pass after these things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick, and his sickness was sore, that there was no breath left in him. And now, right, the woman is like, she felt blessed that Elijah was there, right? And by listening to Elijah, now the woman switches up on Elijah. Watch what she says here. Her son falls sick. Number one, her son falls sick, right? And the sickness, it says it was so sore that the son didn't even have any breath left in him. And so now the woman switches up on Elijah and comes at him like, and I'm going to read it. It says, and she said unto Elijah, what have I to do with thee, O thou man of God? Art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance and to slay my son? So now all of a sudden she's like, ever since you came here, like what do I got? Like, what did I do wrong? Right? Have you come to call out my sins, which is why my son is dying right now? Verse 19, and he said unto her, give me thy son. And he took him out of her bosom and carried him up onto his loft, where he abode, and laid upon his head. You know what I mean? Now understand, this is a very important part right here, right? The Bible says, shall I receive good from the Lord and not evil? You know what I mean? Like, the problem with the Christian church is that, and the mentality of a Christian is that they believe that gain is godliness. And then when something of misfortune happens, they believe that the Lord is punishing them. A lot of times, the Lord is just testing you, right? I'll give you an example. This woman had the same spirit that Job's wife had when things were good and merry. Job's wife, she was chilling. You know what I mean? She felt blessed, right? And there's a lot of people right now that are in a comfortable space right now, and they feel like they're blessed until things hit the fan, until it's time to be tested. And Job's wife, she was tested, right? The Lord allowed Satan to strip all of Job's substances, killed his children, right? And Job's wife cursed Job and said, and told Job, she said, why don't you curse your God and die? That's what she told Job. So a lot of times, women, if you're listening on right now, understand that a lot of times things will happen in your life because you're being tested. And many times women fail the test. Understand that, right? And a lot of times if you're married, you will be tested through your husband and the misfortunes that happen to your husband, which is why you should never belittle your husband. You should never pour any of that black girl magic onto your man and kick him down when he's down. He don't got a job, so what? Pay the bills till he gets the job. It's his money, right? It's not just your money, it's his money too. If that man is giving you rod, that money that you go and get at that corporate office or wherever you work, that's his money. All right? So don't get it twisted, right? That's his money, right? He's the head. He's in charge. I don't give a damn if you don't have a job, right? And that's this is what women do. The Bible says that women abated the courage, right? Meaning you give that man weak knees. I mean, listen, your word can be a woman's words can be so damaging to a brother, man. So damaging, especially when a woman belittles a man, right? And so this is a perfect example of a woman getting tested, right? Not realizing that she is being tested. And the Lord, how did the Lord test her? The Lord brought her good time. God gave her a blessing by allowing the man of the Lord to come and visit her. And then when all of a sudden, when her son falls sick, she basically blames the man of the Lord. That's what she does, right? The scriptures say to not, not to have a light woman, right? Meaning, I'm paraphrasing, meaning a woman that when things are good, she's, she has no complaints. There's none of that, you know what I mean? But then when, let's say a couple of bills have not been paid, someone loses their job, all of a sudden that woman turns into a monster, a ferocious monster, right? But let's jump out of that. Let's get right to it, all right? So now as we go along, right, timeline of the story. Let's go to 1 Kings 18. Let's start at verse 1. And it came to pass after many days that the word of the Lord came to Eliah in the 3rd year, saying, Go show thyself unto Ahab. Salaki came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, Go show thyself unto Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. And Elijah went to show himself unto Ahab, and there was a sore famine in Samaria. And Ahab called Obadiah, which was the governor of his house. Now Obadiah feared the Lord. Now Obadiah, who was one of the prophets, as you read the book of Obadiah, it says he feared the Lord. And what Obadiah did something that was so great and so honorable. When Jezebel set about to go and kill the prophets of the land, Obadiah took 100 of those prophets and hid them by 50 in the caves. And so when he goes to meet with Elijah is basically saying, well, I need you to go to Ahab, because keep in mind, Obadiah was the governor of his house. He said, I need you to go to Ahab and tell him and relay this message. Now, Obadiah is like, Salaki, sir, that sounds like a death mission to go to Ahab and to let him know this, right? So this is kind of where we're at. And then let's jump to verse 18. And I answered, verse 17. And it came to pass, verse 16, Salaki. 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 16. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. And it came to pass, when Ahab saw Elijah, that Ahab said unto him, Art thou he that troubleth Israel? And he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, and that ye have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and thou hast followed Balaam. Now, let's read verse 19. Now, therefore, send and gather to me all Israel unto Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. So now, Ahab has a proposition for, Elijah has a proposition for Ahab, right? Every time Elijah comes around, Ahab's like, oh, here comes trouble, right? And that's how it is. A priest and prophet of the Lord come around, oh, here comes trouble. He's going to ruin Christmas. He's going to ruin this. Here goes that spiel about God and the commandments and this, that, and the third. Well, listen, we ain't going to stop. And Elijah basically comes at Ahab and he's like, yo, gather all the prophets that sit at Jezebel's table. Every single one of them, right? Basically, all the fake Israelites, basically all your preachers, all your soothsayers, gather them all that sit at Jezebel's table, right? Gather them all that sit at Kamala Harris's table. That's a, and so now they were all to go to meet at Mount Carmel. And the thing about our people is that we need a sign for you to prove that you serve the Lord. And the Lord said there will be no generation given, no sign given onto this generation. And so Christians are constantly looking for a sign, right? To show that you serve the Lord, right? It could be you speaking in tongues, you healing someone, right? You see that a lot of times with these, especially back in the days, with these televangelists that were going around, your Benny Hinn's, that were going around supposedly healing people falling on the floor. This is a generation that's looking for a sign, right? Now, I wondered what happened with all that healing that that these televangelists were doing, right? All this healing that they were doing, what happened now, right? COVID-19 came around and they shut down the Christian church. They shut it all the way down, right? But let's keep going. So now he brings them to Mount Carmel, right? He brings all these prophets to Mount Carmel, right? And so they set up an altar on both sides, right? And the crowd is watching. Then they put wood on the altar. They put they fashioned the altar a certain way, right? Or they reared up the altar a certain way. And so with that said, let's see what happens. So now it says this. Here's what Elijah said. Verse 21. I want you to pay attention to this right here. This in 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 21. Hear what Elijah says, right? And this is something that you should run through your mind, on a daily basis. It says, and Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. People think that they can serve God and celebrate Christmas. People think that they can serve God and celebrate American holidays, celebrate their birthday. You can't do both. Elijah's saying this. He said, how long are you going to halt? How long are you going to be between two opinions? Meaning, either you serve one or the other. Don't try to cherry. Don't try to mingle the two, because it's impossible, right? Because the Most High said he is not of the world. And he said everything everything of the world is not of God. If you want to be a worldly nigga and you want to, please your woman and you don't want to get kicked out the house, I suggest you celebrate Christmas. But if you want to serve the Lord, you're going to take that tree and you're going to punt it out the house. You're going to have to make a choice with the Most High. The Most High is not here to for half steppers. He's not here for half steppers. He needs both. He needs both feet in. That's what he needs. He don't want 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Nah, that's not how the Lord works. All right, you got to make a choice. And Elijah's telling the people, "Yo, make your choice, man. Either you serve Baal or you serve the Lord. Don't try to, don't be stuck between two opinions." Right? But let's keep reading. Then said Elijah unto the people, "I, even only I, remain a prophet of the Lord. But Baal's prophets are 450 men." So 450 men are battling one man. And it's to prove who serves the Lord, which is why the UPK, we don't shun battles. We are ready for war. We are ready to slice and dice and cut you with that two-edged sword. We are not here to play. We will not spare anybody. We will not spare Granny. We might go light on Granny, but we ain't going to spare Granny. We ain't going to spare your children either. We will not spare anybody. All right? Now let's keep reading. "Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, and put fire under it, and put no fire under it." Salaki. "And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under it. And call ye the name of your gods." Notice how he said gods, right? Because all these prophets of Baal, they worshiped many gods. Just like you today worship many gods unawares. "And I will call on the name of the Lord, and that the God that answered by fire, let him be the power." And all the people answered and said, "It is well spoken." So now they dress up the altar, they cut up the bullocks, right? And Elijah adds one more thing to it, right? To really show. He says this. Let's go to verse 27, right? "And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal for morning even until noon, saying, 'O Baal, hear us.' But there was no voice, nor any that answered, and they leapt upon the altar which was made." So now, these 450 false prophets, they're over here, cutting themselves. They're over here crying out unto the Lord. They're leaping on the altar, and they're trying to sum up their God, Baal. And here's what Elijah does as he's seeing him doing all this buffoonery in the sight of the people. Here's what Elijah does. It says in verse 28, "And they cried loud and cut themselves after the manner with knives and lances till the blood gushed upon them." So they're crying out to their God for their God to answer. Their God is not answering. So they start cutting themselves till the blood was gushing out. That's how much of a fool, that's how foolish they looked, right? And it came to, now here's the and it came to pass and they were doing this all day. "And it came to pass, and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. And Elijah said unto the people," right? Salak, let me read verse 27. While they were doing that, it says, "And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, 'Cry aloud, for he is a God. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is on a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth and must be awake.'" So now Elijah starts to mock him and say, "Yo, man, keep crying to your God. He's probably, out on a journey somewhere. He's probably sleeping, probably took a nap, right? He's probably, he's probably busy right now, right? But keep crying out." So he's mocking them, right? And then Elijah said unto the people, "Come near unto me." And all the people came near unto him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord which is broken down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord. And he made a trench about the altar as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. So now Elijah builds his altar. He calls on the name of the Lord. And keep in mind, he douses the altar with water. So, you know, if you wet wood, it's harder to burn when the wood is wet. And when he called on the name of the Lord scorched that altar. And it proved to everybody that Elijah was the man of the Lord. And so Elijah commanded that they take all 450 prophets and they slayed and they killed all 450 prophets. Now, after this act was done, Elijah was on the hit list. Jezebel was out there to put a hit on Elijah now. You know what I mean? He was Israel's most wanted at this point after the 450 prophets of Baal was slayed by the people, which proved that they were false prophets, right? You can read that story. So now, understand that's the spirit of Jezebel anyways. It's always to snuff the spirit of Christ in a man, the zeal that a man might have, to snuff the masculinity that's in the man, right? It's there for you to worship your woman. And Kamala Harris ain't going to make it any better. Kamala Harris ain't going to make it any better. You know what I mean? It's going to pump up that black woman's mind, and you are going to look at her like she is the queen of the heavens, like she is the almighty queen, and that you have to worship her. And I pray you understand the repercussions of worshiping your woman, right? Let me give you a quick precept on this one. Let's go to Salakia. Give me Psalms. Actually, give me Proverbs chapter 7, right? Let's read Proverbs chapter 7. Let's go to verse all right, brother. Okay, you had what are you bringing up here? Oh boy, listen, we've been through this many times. Let me guess: Star of Moloch, Star of your God, Remphan. We've been through this many times. We've been doing this for a very long time. Let me guess: Hexagram. Yeah, I know. No sweat. Yeah, no sweat. Yeah, I'm not going to give you the floor today, only because we body bagged so many of y'all. After a while, you know, I must have mercy on you, right? Understand what the Star of Molech is first, right? Understand that stars don't have points, number one. So it might not be talking about a literal star. It might be a metaphor that it's talking about, right? Like the star of Hollywood, right? NBA star, right? Maybe you're confused. Maybe you should be able to. What you need to do is you definitely shouldn't come up in here. What you need to, and if you do come up in here, you're gonna learn under the priests and prophets of the Lord. Or you go to, go to your local, Christian church down the street, suck some rod and, bang some tambourines. But over here, we are the home of the truth. And we've body bagged too many of y'all that be on YouTube all day talking about the Star of Molech. Where'd you learn that from? You learned that from your YouTube teachers? Type in where you learned that from, the Star of Molech. And tell me, and look up look up a star and tell me if stars have points. Please tell me. Let me keep reading. Right. Where am I at, man? Star of Molech. I mean, we hear that all the time, man. We hear that all the time. And let me guess. Christmas is around the corner. I'm pretty sure you are excited. You ready to cut down that tree, put it up in your house, put that little star on top of the tree, get in your onesies with your woman, you know what I mean? Sing jingle bells. I know. And the Bible doesn't call the shield of David a star. They call it a shield. It's a seal. Every king has a seal. Look it up. Right? But let's go. Let's keep reading. All right. Where we at? So, okay, let's go to Proverbs, right? I only got about 2 minutes. I really wanted to get to the meat of Jezebel, but we started off kind of late. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 22. It says this: He goeth after her straightway, as an ox goeth to the slaughter. So let's keep reading. Let's run down over here, right? Verse 26. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 26. For she hath cast down many wounded. Yeah, many strong men have been slain by her. Let me tell you something about women. There are women out there that have wounded many strong men, that have destroyed many kings, right? And when you put your woman on that pedestal and you give your woman that power, when in actuality submission is her strength, right? And her rebelliousness is her weakness, right? The Bible says rebelliousness is as of witchcraft. It's just like witchcraft. And your woman has a spirit on her, a male spirit on her that wants to destroy you, right? That's why it says, yea, many strong men have been slain by her. Her house is the way of hell, going down to the chambers of death. And this is what Ahab, this is the witchcraft that was put on King Ahab. He was wounded by this woman. You know what I mean? She recognized a weakness that was in Ahab, and she was able to take control. And but let's do one more real quick. I just wanted to read that up, that precept real quick. Let's go to I think we're gonna, what time is it? 7:40. Yeah, we're gonna end it right here. As you know, Jezebel ends up getting killed with the dogs eating her blood. We should I could probably just get to that real quick. Let me see how much. I might have about 2 more minutes. Yeah, let's okay, let's go. Let's just jump to 23. Let me get 2 more minutes. And Jezebel also spake the Lord, saying, the dog shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. Him that dieth in Ahab in the city, the dog shall eat, and him that dieth in the field shall the fowls of the air eat. But there was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work in the sight of the Lord, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up. let me tell you something. Your woman is what's going to stir you up to be wicked in the sight of the Lord. This is something that we should all reference as, and when you're dealing with your woman, she might, be completely against you serving the Lord, and she might cause you and might stir you to be more wicked by worshiping her gods, by listening to her, by allowing her to command, to be in commandment of the relationship. And so this is what it says. I'm gonna read it one more time. But there was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of the Lord, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up. And he did very abominably in following idols, according to all the things as did the Amorites, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel. And it came to pass when Ahab heard these words, that he rent his clothes and put his sackcloth and fasted, and lay in sackcloth and went softly. So now we all know that the Lord had prophesied that Ahab and Jezebel, he said, any man in the city, the dogs shall eat, right? That was under Ahab. But you can read the First Kings. It's a very interesting story, starting at chapter 16. Just understand that the black girl magic is heavily at work now that we have a so-called black woman as vice president. Understand that your woman is going to be the biggest monster. She is going to be the biggest dragon in your life. And the only way you're going to learn how to train a dragon is in the Israelite School Universal Practical Knowledge. And with that, we're going to end the class. And with that, we're going to class. Tomorrow's class is a brotherhood class from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Wednesday's class is the law class. And with that, love y'all, Israel. Shalom, Yishabrakatah to all my brothers. Shalom, Yahshua, Allah, Shemi, Ashad, my sisters. Shalom, Israel.